Okay, so number 4, we have triangle. Let me get this going. We're going to have a triangle NEW. So you can put the N and the E and the W anywhere. Remember, angles, we use capital letters. And we know that little n is 15. So now remember, if little n is 15, then little n here is going to be opposite big N. So little n is going to be that right there. Okay, so little n is going to be 15. And then we know little w is 20. So here's big W. So little w will be the side opposite that angle. So that's going to be 20. So let's put 20 right here. And we know angle W is 100 degrees. So I'm going to put 100 in there. I'm just going to go like that. Okay, so now they want you to find the measure of angle N. So basically, we are looking for that angle right there. So if you look and you see what we have a side and the angle opposite it, and then we have another side, and we're looking for the angle opposite that. So that's going to be law of sines. All right, so law of sines, we're going to start by setting up the side over the sine of the angle opposite it equals another side and the sine of the angle opposite that, which would just be n. That's what we're looking for. Okay, now I highly suggest don't put anything in your calculator yet. Let's just do some cross multiplying. So I'm going to have 20 times the sine of n equals 15 times the sine of 100. Okay, now if you wanted to get the sine n by itself, we would divide everything by 20. And that would give us sine n equals 15 times the sine of 100. And that entire thing over 20. Okay, so now remember at this point, we're actually looking for the angle, so we want to get rid of this sine. So just remember in your calculator, then what you're going to hit right here is you're going to hit second sine in your calculator. And then after that, you're going to put all of this in your calculator. Please remember, your calculator has to be in degrees. Okay, so you're going to do second sine, and then you're going to put in 15 times the sine of 100, that whole thing over 20, and then you're going to get angle N. Okay? Now, just FYI, if you want to, some kids prefer to figure out what that right side is first. So if you're looking at what's in this box and you put that in the calculator, you can do that also. I would get 0.7386. Let's turn that into a 6. 0.5, and then it keeps going, blah, blah, blah. And you can hit second sine there of that answer if you prefer that. Okay, so anyway you do it, angle N is 47.6127. And it keeps going. And we're just going to round this to the nearest degree because that's what the directions ask us to do. So that's going to be 48 degrees. Before we start number 5, if you want to just take a second and if you would write down the corrections that I have right here, if you want to pause me, go right ahead. We just have to change these numbers up so everything works okay. All right, so again, I'm going to do the same thing and I'm going to draw a triangle. And we know it's a triangle ABC. So A, B, C. Now I know that angle C is 120 degrees, so I'm going to just stick that up there. And again, as I said in the last question, we've got little a here, so here's big A. So little a is going to be directly opposite or directly across from big A. So that's going to be 18, and little c is going to be 25, and that's going to be opposite big C. And they want you to find the measure of angle A. So this is very similar to the last question, except just different numbers. So let's set it up the same exact way. So law of sine says, pick a side, and then underneath that, we're going to write the sine of the angle that's opposite that side, which is 120 degrees. Equals, then we're going to pick another side, and we're going to write the sine of the angle opposite that side, which we don't know, but that's what we're looking for. All right, so just like the last one, don't do anything in your calculator yet. Let's just cross multiply. We're going to get 25 times the sine of it, times the sine of A equals 18 times the sine of 120 degrees. Okay, again, make sure your calculators are in degrees. Alrighty, so we need to get that sine A by itself, so I am going to divide out the 25. Now at this point here, some kids may choose to do second sine of everything on the right-hand side, or some of you may choose to just do sine A, and then now just take everything you see right here and put this in your calculator, and you can get a decimal value. Okay, that's really your call. I'm going to put that all in and get a decimal value. I get 0.62353, and it keeps going, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and then remember here, this is where you do second sine in your calculator. Second sine, second answer. Okay? All right, so let's see what we end up getting. So when I do that, I get angle A equals 38.5749. And we want this to the nearest degree. So angle A will be 39 degrees. Alrighty, so we've got another triangle again. Let's label A, B, C. Little a is 3, that's over here. Little c is 3 radical 2, that's down here. And angle A is 45 degrees. So that's that right there. All right, and we want angle B. So this is the one that we don't know. Now, let's look at this. And I have a slight problem here. I hope that you see it. So here's the issue. The issue is I have a side and I have the angle opposite it, which is required for law of sines, right? Well, I have another side, but I don't have the angle opposite it, and that's not the angle they're asking me to find. This one is. So let's think about this. Well, okay, I could use this angle, but I don't have the side opposite it. So this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking if I have this side, couldn't I find the angle here? And then once I know what this angle is, add it with 45 and subtract from 180, and that'll give me this angle, right? Because don't all the angles in a triangle, this one, and this one, all add up to 180 degrees. So I'm actually going to start by finding angle C first. Okay, so I am going to find this one first. All right, so that's going to be 3 over the sine of 45 equals, and then I'm going to do 3 radical 2 over the sine of C. All right, so let's cross multiply. So 3 times the sine of C is equal to 3 radical 2 times the sine of 45. And then we're going to take that and we're going to divide everything by 3, right? All right, so that's going to give me sine C equals, and then when I multiply everything I have right here, I'll put that all in my calculator. It's funny, I get 1. Okay, that's actually pretty cool. All right, so now remember, when we get to this part, This is where we do second sign in our calculator. Second sign. Now, you really don't need to do second sign if you remember your unit circle, because really what this is asking is it's saying what angle has a sign that's 1. That's what that's saying. What angle has a sign that's 1? And if you remember your units, if you remember your unit circle, you will remember it's 90 degrees. So, angle C equals 90 degrees. Now you can do it in your calculator as well, I get it, but just so you know. All right, so now that wasn't the angle that they wanted me to find. They really wanted me to find angle B. So I know now that this is 90 degrees, and I know that this is 45, so can I add these two up, subtract from 180, and get this one? All right, so I'm going to do 90 plus that 45, which gives me 135, and then I'm going to do 180 minus 135, and that's going to give me 45 degrees. And there is your angle B. All right, so we have a bit of a word problem here, so let's look at this one. 2 observers are standing on shore, and they're a half a mile apart at points A and B. So I'm going to say here's one observer, that's point A, and here's the other observer, that's point B, and they're a half a mile apart. Let's see, what else does it say? And measure the angle to a sailboat at point C at the same time. Okay, so they're on shore. So I'm thinking the sailboat's out here, maybe in the water at point C. So we could then draw our triangle like that. Angle A is 63 degrees, so let's put that there, 63 degrees. And angle B is 56 degrees, so that's 56 degrees there. Now, if I want to, since I know this angle and I know this angle, I could find this angle, right? Couldn't I add these two guys up and subtract from 180, and that will give me that angle? All right, so when I do that, I'm going to get 61 degrees. Okay, I may need it, whoops. Let's just leave that 61. We may need it, we may not. Let's just see. Okay, so it says find the distance from each observer to the sailboat to the nearest 100th of a mile. So basically what they want is the distance from this observer here to the sailboat, and then this observer here to the sailboat. So they want this side and they want this side. Okay? All right, well, how about this? We know that, I'm going to call this little b because it's opposite big B, and I'm going to call this little a because it's opposite big A. And basically, all you're going to do is you're going to do the law of sines twice. Okay, so let's set it up. It doesn't really matter which one we want to find first. So let's do A over the sine of 63. And then I'm going to do 1/2 over the sine of 61. And now I'm just going to cross multiply. So I have A times the sine of 61 equals, what do we have? 1/2 times the sine of 63. And then we're just going to divide out that sine, whoops, let me get that all underneath, 61. And then you can throw that all into your calculator. All right, so when we do that, I have 0.4739. And it says to the nearest 100th. So A would equal 0.47 of a mile. Or 0.47 of a mile, I should say. Okay, all right, let's do the other side now. So now we need to find, so we just found A, right? And now we need to find B. All right, I made a mistake. Sorry, this is wrong. My math is wrong. Okay, so you're probably like, what is she talking about? Okay, so this should be 0.5093, right? And then that should be 0.51 of a mile, 0.51. Okay, now let's do the other one. So we need to find B now, right? So I am going to put B over the angle opposite that, which is 56, right? So the sine of 56, and equals, and I'm just going to keep it the same on this side, 1/2 over the sine of 61 degrees. Okay, so let's cross multiply. So we've got B times the sine of 61 degrees equals 1/2 times the sine of 56 degrees. And then I'm just going to divide both sides so that I can get that B by itself. We'll cancel this out over here, and then I'm going to throw that in my calculator. Guess what you're going to get? What Miss Carter made a mistake on. 0.4739. So B was the 0.47 miles. Okay, and there's your answer. All right, so I think you're going to find number 8 very similar to number 7. So we've got fire towers A and B, and they're located 10 miles apart. So this is going to be fire tower A, and this is going to be fire tower B, and they are 10 miles apart. Okay, now let's see. Rangers at fire tower A spot a fire at 42 degrees, and rangers at fire tower B spot the same fire at 64 degrees. So we're going to say the fire is up here. Let's call it F for fire. Here we go. All right, so let's see. Tower A's fire, 42 degrees. Tower B is 64, right? All right, well, like the last one, we can add those two up, subtract from 180, and so this top F angle here is going to be 74. All right, let's see, what is it they want us to find? How far from Tower A is the fire to the nearest 1/10 of a mile? So basically, they're looking for this side right here. I'm going to call it little b because it's opposite big B, if that's okay with you. And so there we go. All right, well, this one's actually a little bit easier than number 7 because we only have to do law of sines once. So let's set it up. So we have some side that we don't know over the sine of the angle that's opposite that equals another side that we do know over the sine of the angle opposite that, which is 74 degrees. Okay, cross multiply. So we've got B times the sine of 74 equals 10 times the sine of 64. And then we're going to divide both sides so that we can get that B by itself. Okay, remember again, as I had said before, your calculator has to be in degree mode. Okay, and then we just throw all that into our calculator. Make sure you use alpha y equals, and you will get 9.3501. And we want to round this to the nearest 1/10, so that is going to be 9.4 miles.